Hey, welcome.
Hey, how
Hey,
are you?
I think we're good to go. Okay. Hey, well, first of all, hey everyone. I Anne-Marie Obraskin here today to talk to us about data and analytics and what her freelance business looks like. And I'm so excited to have you. Before we get started, I just want to tell everybody that we are in the same mastermind together, and that's
Mhm.
that. And I am just so excited to share your business and have everyone get to know you because I think you're super cool.
Right back at you. I love your earrings, by the way.
Thank you. Got to dress up a little bit in mom world. Okay, so let's start from the beginning and let's tell everybody where you're from, what your life looks like, what you used to do, and all the good stuff.
Absolutely. So I am located outside of Boston, Massachusetts, about 30 minutes west. I grew up south of here, but still in Massachusetts. And then I went to New York for about 10 years. I actually got my undergrad in music industry.
No way. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I started as a music performance major, and then quickly realized that was not the life for me. And so I worked in the music industry for a few years, and then started freelancing really then. That was about 10 years ago.
What was your first freelance gig that you took on?
Social media management.
No way. Did you have experience in that?
Oh, no. No, like of course not. Like I was doing music copyright. But like I did it enough, like I could do it a little bit better than somebody else, which is really all it takes to be able to have someone pay you to do it. Um, so that was where I started. And then I went on to get my master's degree in media management and communications. Um, and yeah, I really just continued the social media. I did kind of ran the gamut of everything you could do kind of in that realm. I've done paid social, organic social. I've worked at New York City marketing agencies and then small boutique agencies, which is a lot over 10 years.
My
but,
God.
but finally, since the birth of my daughter, I have worked fully for myself. And I really focus, I move my focus to data and analytics. And then I also, I run a separate mastermind for moms running businesses at home with little kids. So I have like a group and I just help them kind of, again, I have a 3-year-old, so I'm not that far ahead of them, but I have a little bit of more experience. And so I help other moms that way.
So I have so many questions for
Yeah.
you now. Okay, first of all, let's go back to social media a little bit.
Yes.
Tell me, like, what did you like about social media? Like, what was the fun part of that when dealing with clients?
The fun part was getting to be creative. And when you get a client who really kind of like is the same vibe as you, and then like the opposite of that is the opposite of that. It's not very fun. But really, where I started into data and analytics was when I started getting the feedback of, it seems like you're doing a lot of stuff, but I have no idea if it's working or not. And so that's really where that started, because I was like, I'm spending hours here. Like, I need to be able to prove that like this is valuable and that I can charge more money for it.
Okay, so were you seeing results from your social media strategy and your posting?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you?
Yeah. So I really started digging into Google Analytics then. And that was when I was totally focused on organic, because paid social really wasn't in existence yet. Like it really didn't exist. And so I just started learning how to like tag links and use UTM links, and make sure that we could track someone and say, okay, well, how much money did you make after we made this post, and be able to really see where the trends were going.
Yeah.
And so once I was able to do that, then things got a lot easier because you're able to prove your results. And I mean, as you know, like that's one of the biggest things, is just be able to show your value.
Gosh, yes.
And when you get in a simple process in place for yourself and simple for your clients to understand, that's really the sweet spot. Like, you don't need to inundate them with numbers,
Yeah.
because they hired you for a reason. They don't necessarily know what all of those numbers mean. So if you can give them a simple way to say, look, we did XYZ this month, and then here are the results.
So
here's this paper
on a end of the month report, or would you put that on your invoice, or like how would you deliver that data to your clients?
Generally a PDF at the end of the month.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I use a when I do that type of work now, I use a reporting tool called Reporting Ninja. That it just kind of pulls data from a bunch of different places and then makes it look nice.
Okay.
I mean, that's important.
Am I frozen? Well, that's embarrassing. Like something just froze there for a second. Okay. I don't know if that's my end.
I don't know.
I'm not getting a green signal, but I do have a lot of people on Wi-Fi today with virtual school. Okay. So you were saying that it's important, and then I didn't hear the rest of that.
Oh, just that that clients do think it's important. I mean, they want to like what they're looking at. And a lot of the time, business owners, especially somebody who's maybe more creative or not in the business or financial side, they get overwhelmed if they just see a bunch of charts and a bunch of numbers. So if you make it really clear up top, like what I do, like there's basically like a dashboard at the top. And it's like, okay, here's like the 5 things we discussed that we're measuring. And then if they want, they can go look at that other stuff. But honestly, more often than not, they don't. They just look at those top numbers.
Yeah, because they don't want to go deep into it, but they need to know enough, like you said, that it's there's an ROI, that they're getting results. And now my background is public relations, and it was always frustrating for me to, because there's not always direct tracking with that. And I always felt a little bit jealous of some of those marketing efforts that could be tracked, because they immediately got the attention of the marketing board or whatever. And meanwhile, I'm like busting my butt. So I've always like felt that and knew that was part of the game, was promoting yourself, showing the stats, showing what you're doing. So what were your top stats that clients would want to know, like off the top of your head? And I'm assuming you're talking about Facebook a lot here, but are we talking about a different social media? Like
I mean, it just depends on the client, because some people were using LinkedIn, some Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, like the big ones. I honestly haven't done anything with like the newest things like TikTok, but because I'm not in that realm anymore. Like I don't do social media for people, but I just measure it for them. But most of the time people want to see if we can track sales. Number one, obviously sales. And then other than that, they like to see, okay, how much traffic is it driving to the site? How many new people are we reaching? That type of thing, just to see, like, because most of the time people are looking for brand awareness and they're looking for sales. So we're looking at like impressions, reach. Impressions is how many times something has been seen, and reach is how many different people saw it. And then just traffic to the site.
So as you're doing social media, you're realizing you like the numbers more, right? And why? What was the big, okay, I'm just going to say it like it is, because a lot of us start out doing social media for clients, and we realize how hard it is, and then it's never ending, and sometimes it's not valued as much because it's like front and center. It's like the most picked over thing, because you're like representing the brand. But tell me why, in your own words, like why was data and analytics more attractive, and why did you leave more of the social media work?
Well, I left the organic for the paid because it was easier to prove. You can charge more money for it because you can show super, like, really directly, hey, this is how much money I made you. And so it's a lot easier to charge more. And honestly, that's why I moved over to the paid side. And then from there, I noticed that there was a gap in that industry, where people running the ads didn't like the reporting, like that was their least favorite part of it. And I was like, oh, that's my favorite part. Like, I don't love like going in every 2 days and seeing like, yes, it's fun sometimes, but more often than not, it wasn't super fun for me. And I just wanted to look at all of the information at the end and be like, hey, I can tell you what worked and what didn't. And it's really fun to be able to go and do that for somebody else's stuff, because then I'm not feeling that like, oh, like maybe I didn't do as good of a job as I thought.
Like, you're like more of the inspector general at this point. Sorry,
right.
The military jargon, that you're the third party and you can look at it impartially.
Yeah, and that is a big part of why it's also valuable, because I mean, even if you're not, it doesn't have to be any sort of negative, but naturally when you're reporting your own results, you want it to look good. I mean, and not that it's in any way necessarily like lying, but you're going to spin it to make it look nice. And you're going to put the nicest numbers at the top. Whereas I can say like, hey, like we're going to look at everything overall. And I'm still like, I'm very positive and everything, but I'm like, hey, these are the best things that are working for you. So why don't you keep going with that? And I think it is easier to go in as a third party. And easier to have someone come in as a third party, because you never have that question of like, how good is it really, or how does it compare to this other thing? Because usually you are hiring someone, like you're hiring different people for different tasks. But to get a single report that really covers all of your marketing efforts can be beneficial.
So when you look at analytics now, are you looking at, okay, are you like, do you still do social media analytics, first of all? Is that part of what you do in your?
It's part of the larger, but I don't, the only thing that's really social media specific is I have some Facebook ad manager friends that I will like white label their reports for their campaigns.
Okay. So let's go back for a second and tell everyone who might not know, what is the difference between the paid and the organic?
Yep. So paid is purely ads. So I never recommend boosting, but running Facebook ads, we measure the paid and the organic, which is no money, separately, because we really want to see, okay, what results are we getting naturally? And then what results are we getting because we paid to get it in front of this whole other group of people? Because a lot of the time, I mean, not right now, but like during an election season, it's super expensive. But normally you can get some really great results for not that much. And especially as a company hiring out for organic and for paid can be a better investment.
Yeah.
Because you're like, they're still making an investment even though organic is free.
Yeah.
Like they're paying somebody to do it.
It's such a fast track too. I know there's so much pushback on people, but you know, I have a couple lead magnets with paid traffic. I have, well, do you do Pinterest, like promoted pins too?
Yeah.
Google AdWords, do you do that as well?
Not really. I did it briefly and I just didn't really love it.
Yeah, not that fun. I haven't, that's one of those areas I would like to learn more, but I signed up for this masterclass to learn and then never took it. So I should go back to that. Yeah.
I've done that many times.
I know if you're trying to get started quicker and help your clients quicker, and they have a launch coming up, who has time for organic right now? Oh my gosh. It can happen. I've seen it happen, but the days when I worked with clients 5 years ago on Facebook, even Pinterest, way different. And you can go so much faster if you put a little money behind it.
Right, exactly. And I think a lot of it is also, it's really important to differentiate too, that when you're putting the money into these platforms, it's so important to not just do hey, I'm going to pay for likes on my page. Like that is not a good return. Don't do that. Like, but when you're paying to drive traffic to like a lead magnet, like you said, that's usually the best results and the highest return on investment, or ROI, like you mentioned. That tends to be the best move. And like you said, like when you're doing a launch, I would say most people should have some sort of Facebook ads built into that marketing budget for a launch.
Yeah. I had a client who recently launched, and her lead magnet just wasn't doing well. And there's a whole marketing messaging thing to dive into with that. But what I did for her launch was do an engagement, like get that video engagement audience. And I got it up to about 100,000 people. So yeah, they were opted in as emails, but at least this audience available in the ads manager. Anyone who watched a portion of this video that she did. And so I've been testing that out over months to figure out which video, which interview was resonating, and then put some money behind that. And it wasn't even, it was like a couple dollars a day.
Yeah, but the video views,
but over the span.
Yeah, and video views are cheap. And then like you said, then you can narrow it down because you're saying like, okay, well, you were already interested 15 seconds worth. So now I'm going to show you this other ad too.
Yeah, and that's called a waterfall strategy for any of you who might not know that. So how are you different than an ads manager? Like, explain that.
Well, I don't manage ads anymore. So that's why. But what I do is really I go in and I just look at your numbers. I look at all of the information that's inside of Google Analytics primarily. But some people use other tools. But I'll also look at like Facebook page insights, like Instagram insights, look at all of that and just kind of bring it together so that you can have, so one part of it is an audience analysis. Okay. So I share exactly, I put together basically a profile, kind of picture like your ideal client avatar, but then it's who you're actually reaching instead of this like person in your mind. So we look at who's actually seeing your messaging, which I think might be the most crucial part of what I do, is because so much of the time it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Like we're not quite reaching who we think we're reaching. And then because it's so much easier to change your message or change your offer, like tweak what you're doing or like what you're saying or what you're offering, than it is to change your audience. Like it's harder to get different people to follow you. So sometimes the easiest thing to do is to just adjust for who you're already talking to.
Yes. I know I should probably do this deep dive thing. It's one of those like catch-22, like cliche business problems where like you need to do it and then taking the time to do it. It's so I'm just going off of a post launch where some of my ad spend, oh my gosh, Facebook has a brand new audience just for virtual assistants. And that was
nice.
It was awesome, except for it's election time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was like I can, hone down on my messaging, but it was getting up to like over $10 per lead. I'm like,
yeah.
Last launch, I was paying like $2, $3, sometimes $4 a lead. I'm like, what the heck? Like, so not cool, Facebook.
I know. I launched the Mastermind a few weeks ago, and even that, like, it was still a few weeks before yours, and it was already too expensive.
Yeah.
It was ranging between $8 and $11 a lead.
Okay. Mine was
like, no, absolutely not.
I got up to 14 for VAs, which I'm like, if they're the right person and they're going to buy my program high level, that can be okay. But it was all cold. It was all cold audience. Yeah. And I didn't, I did it because I was already committed to the launch. But I love talking about this number stuff with you.
Me too.
Oh my goodness. So let's talk about some of the tools you use to track. You have a really cool flash sale that we'll get into now where you go over some of these tools, but let's talk about some of your favorite ones. Because I know I have, virtual assistants, I have freelancers, social media managers. I have all kinds of people here in this group and who will listen to the podcast who I know will walk away with something really cool that they can implement. So I'd love to know what your favorite ones are and maybe like a quick, like what kind of information that serves.
Yeah. Okay. So number one, Google Analytics. I mean, it's free. All you have to do is install it on the website. Most websites have an easy integration. So that's my number one. If you don't have that installed, go do it now. And make it part of your onboarding for your clients.
Yes.
Make sure that they are using Google Analytics too, because then you can better track your own results. And I have found, this is just like a little bonus, you can absolutely add on like advanced reporting to your packages for an easy, like a couple $100 more each month. And it's so, it's a really easy way to increase your package rates, and because you're providing them with a really big amount of value. So that's Google Analytics, and that's where you're going to look at the people who are coming to your website, and what they're doing. So their behavior and who they are.
Yes.
And then you can also track, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you finish and I'll say.
I'm going to say there, you can track also what your conversions are. So whether it's a free sign up or an actual purchase on your site, you can do that.
Yes, I absolutely love Google Analytics. I've gotten so much work from clients because they come to me, don't have that set up. It's actually something I teach in the crash course to get people spun up real quick and know that they need to do that. And I teach them really quickly how to read them, but I know there's so much information in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's much more for those people who want to dive in. And I don't think I told you this, but I started working with my big client because I said yes to designing a media kit for her.
Mm-hmm.
And this was 7 years ago, and I didn't know what that was compared to like my old PR days. And I realized I needed analytics, like I needed social proof. And so I went in there and realized she had none set up. And I just like weaseled my way into her business.
That's awesome.
Once I had the data, I was able to say, hey, did you see this was happening? Did you see that was happening? I didn't know what I was doing. Like it wasn't like super strategic of me.
Yeah.
I just couldn't help myself. I was like seeing all this stuff. And then that's how we started doing Pinterest marketing back before it like really blew up.
Yeah.
And we saw we were getting traffic and we're like, what if we do this on purpose? What if we like run with it? It's also how I was able to track her top blogs and go back and monetize them better, get those affiliates. And
so good. There's so much. And yeah, like you said, like it's not only can you charge for these like super value packed reports, but it's giving you additional information that you can bring them recommendations as the expert.
Yes.
And so it's fantastic. It's something that I think it's so valuable for everyone to do. Like anyone who's doing any sort of online marketing, especially. And yeah, so you can track all of that and you can see exactly where your sales are coming from, which is the biggest thing. And especially if you're doing social media or anything like that, you can say like, hey, okay, I saw 60% of your sales came from Facebook. So you're welcome. Like,
it gives you insight to demographics, like what devices people are using and, you know, where they're coming from, like we talked about. Talk to me a little bit about the tracking within Google Analytics. I think, is one of your flash sale courses about that? Or am I making that?
Yeah, I have one about code installation, which just has some basic walkthroughs. And then inside of the Google Analytics and Hotjar ones, I go into like, here's how you should set up your account, that type of thing. Yeah.
What about the UTM links? Isn't that related to Google?
Yes, it is. Yeah. And that's, yeah. So the UTM links, that's in the one, I really should have had this pulled up because I don't remember the names of them, but
marketing tracking core, little flash sale. Yeah.
So in that one, we talk about, okay, here's like a more advanced way to track everything that you put out. Like as long as they are clicking somewhere on the computer, you should be able to track it. So, and it's a really great way to be able to get information more specifically than Facebook. So for example, like there's so many different places on Facebook that they could be clicking from. They could be clicking from your page. They could be clicking from your personal profile. They could be clicking from your Facebook group. They could be clicking from a Facebook group that you posted in. Yeah. And with UTM links, you can go through and make it so that you can tell the difference. So you can see if a sale came from, hey, I posted in this Saturday promo thread, somebody clicked through and signed up. You know that. And it helps you like allocate your time so much better. Because if you start seeing like, oh, okay, well, every time I post on my Facebook page, nothing happens, which is exactly what I've seen. Like nothing happens. So I stopped creating content specifically for my Facebook page.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for me. There's some people that it works for. All I do is I just post it over from Instagram because I was like, you know what? Like that's not best practice. I would never recommend that to someone who doesn't have the data to back up the fact that it's just not working.
But this data makes you smart. And I do the same thing. I have my Instagram hooked up to Facebook because I know my time is better served elsewhere.
Yes.
You have these tracking links that tell you that it's straight up, it gives you tracking. So if you're a virtual assistant or freelancer, this kind of data will make you invaluable, indispensable to your business owner and prove your work. And what happens when that happens? You charge more, you become a permanent teammate. You know, you get referrals because you know what you're doing. So UTM links it's all about like creating like a campaign or whatnot inside Google. So Anne-Marie has a $7 flash sale for this course. The reason I wanted to point this one out is I don't actually go into this in my crash course because to me it's like next level.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of my students would benefit from doing this because if you can add the tracking on there, you can, it makes your business better and your clients happier with their end of the month reports. So how is UTM different than like Bitly or Pretty Links, or why should we use Google over those other?
So the Pretty Links and Bitly are basically, they're just shortening it. They're just making it so that you're not doing this huge ugly URL. Obviously Pretty Links, it's making it pretty.
Yeah.
And but what the UTM links do is it gives Google more information and you can literally plug in what is going to be in that URL. So I use a Chrome extension called utm.io. I think that's what it is.
Okay.
And it saves all of my templates. So I know like, okay, if I'm posting in a Facebook group, I'm going to click this. It's going to add this string onto the end of my link. And I'll be able to go into Google Analytics and see how many clicks to my website I got from this post in this Facebook group.
That's awesome. I've seen this a lot with email campaigns too.
Yes.
So you can track your numbers.
Yeah. So what I do with that is whenever I have a launch, I will use like the launch name as the campaign. And then within content, I'll list email 1, email 2, email 3. So I can see not only, okay, I'm getting sales from my email list, but I can see, okay, like for example, a couple of launches ago, I didn't make any sales until email 8. And then email 8, I made all of my sales.
So what was it about email 8?
Right. So I looked at it and I was like, okay, so next time I know I'm going to have at least 8 emails. Yep. And then I'm going to make sure that I'm going through and I'm going to use that exact same email, obviously, and going through and making sure that we're covering all of the same information. But you can also see from the other emails, okay, did anybody click through? Like, was it the subject line? Did nobody open it? Did nobody click through? Like, what was it about those that maybe made it that they didn't buy at that point? So it's really helpful because you have to kind of create the story behind it, but having those numbers makes it generally really easy.
And I feel like ads make it easy, right? You have your conversion, you can follow through to the successful payment, but everything else you're like, I don't really know. If you're using these links the right way and you're, bringing them to the table without your clients even knowing, like you will just be so much more powerful.
Yes. And it's massive added value to them.
I love it. I love all this stuff. So let's talk about another one of your favorites, which is so funny because I was just talking with my team last week about tracking my sales page and just kind of where people are, where they're falling off. And we had a whole conversation. I've known these tools are out there. I just haven't done it for myself. So tell everybody your hot tool that you already know what I'm talking about.
Yes. So Hotjar. Hotjar is, so it's free for up to a certain number of recordings and heat map uses. And what that means, so it records, it's just a code, just like Google Analytics. You install it on your website. It takes heat maps, which, like, if you've ever seen like a heat map where it just shows like where there's like people and stuff like that on it.
Coronavirus, like where the
right, exactly. So picture that, but on your web, like on a single page. So like you were saying, Emily, like on your sales page, it will highlight where people click the most. And then it will also tell you what percentage of the people saw, like basically scrolled. So you're starting at the top and you're at, okay, 100% of people saw my header. And then the next scroll down, you can see, okay, well, it was 75% of people now, drops to like 65. And then at some point you're going to see like, okay, no one has scrolled past here. And so, you know, like, okay, it's getting less and less. You're able to adjust and tweak your sales page to make sure that they're seeing the stuff that you need them to see.
Yes.
And so it makes it really helpful. And that's only half of Hotjar. Well, half of what I use for Hotjar. So they also have screen recordings where you can literally watch someone's mouse go, like, you don't see the person. That's a question that I've gotten a lot. It's not like a recording of your face. You just see like their mouse, where they're going, how they're scrolling, and then where they're clicking. And that can be really helpful because you can see frequently if someone is looking for something that's not there. Like, you can tell if someone's like scrolling a lot, going up back and forth, but not reading anything. It means they're looking for something that's missing. And so then you can go back in and try to figure out, okay, what were they trying to find? And that's usually just where they end up. But you want to make it as seamless as possible. So then you can use that information.
Yeah. Do people read with their mouse? Like, I know a lot about sales page designs and like the backward Z, and people go through headlines, but does their mouse move like that?
Sometimes, not all the time. Like, I don't do that because I've paid attention. Like, I don't do that with mine, but some people do. And it's really interesting. Like, you'll see them scroll, like move their mouse across like the navigation, and they'll go down and they'll hover over all of the text. And it's really interesting.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Did you know if that works on Kajabi?
Yes, it definitely does, because I've used it on Kajabi.
Okay. I've heard of a couple other different tools like this too, but I like that you have a by name referral, you know, because if Anne's using it, then that's pretty much like
And I mean, and it's free. Like, everything I use, I try for there to be like some sort of free version, so you can at least like check it out and see if it's for you. But that does bring me into, well, actually, I see there's a couple of questions. I can answer these.
Yeah. And I actually updated our description after we went live to have the right email or the right page for her flash sale. There's a V in there, and unfortunately my update didn't work. So I'm going to try to put it in the comments here so you guys can look for it there.
Awesome. Thanks. So are you seeing the results of the UTM links within Google Analytics? Yes. I see there's a couple questions. I can answer.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So yes, you see the results for the UTM links right inside of Google Analytics. You'll see them in the campaign section, right in conversions usually. And then you'll also see, in the behavior section, you'll see campaigns, and you can break it all out that way. And it's really helpful.
I also like in Google Analytics, you can kind of see the map. You can track the pages people exit on.
Yes.
You can see bounce rates really quickly. And I also love using Google Analytics when it comes to Pinterest. Mm-hmm. And I can see where people are clicking after a pin, and I can see the top pins. I mean, I like Pinterest Analytics too. That one's always changing.
Yeah.
That one shows me what, it helps me a lot correlate like my work on Pinterest, which I've done for years for clients, like where to put my efforts in. And especially back in the day when we had multiple pins spinning around and Pinterest wouldn't quite collect the data on all of them, it's like aggregated. So, but I just love that data, and I love to refer blogs, like future content based on analytics, like what's going well.
So for that, what I do is I look into the content section, and then I also look at search queries, either what people are searching for on your site or what people are searching for to get to your site. That makes a massive difference. And then actually I use UTM links on Pinterest to differentiate the image and the caption. I think it's actually inside of that tracker I think Pinterest might be the example I use. If not, I'll add in that lesson because I have a whole lesson about using UTMs with Pinterest and how I create all of the pins. Because I track the captions, the headlines, and the image. So I can easily go into Google Analytics and see, okay, this was like headline 1 was the best with and caption 4 and image 7. So then I can go in and then combine all of those things together in a new round of pins going to the same link.
Like superpower pins.
Yeah, exactly. And then I won't use, like, if I see there's almost always like a handful of images that don't do great. And so I'm like, okay, great. I don't have to use those again.
Because we are always testing things. We don't, if you like come to a client and say, all the answers, like they're not going to believe you. Like you have to when it comes to social media. And I do find, this is kind of like a tangent, that clients, they want quick results. When they hire you, like they expect things right away. And then like, that's just not feasible because you got to pay attention. And when if you're a business owner and you're listening to this right now, know that you're looking for someone who's willing to step out and not have all the answers, be dynamic about it, but also be willing to look at the data and come back to you with better solutions. Like that's the package you're looking for, not to plug it in and walk away, because it doesn't work. It just doesn't, you won't be successful that way.
Exactly. And even going and seeing, because I've gotten like I've seen people coming to me saying like, well, my clients are saying like, if you can't tell, like, then why should I hire you if basically anybody can do it? Like, but you're bringing to the table what you have seen work. So you're already starting ahead of people who are going in with no knowledge. Even though the first thing you try might not be a massive success. You still know it's still more likely that what you're going to do is going to be successful than somebody going in who's never tried anything and doesn't look at any of the numbers.
And this is just fitting so well into my unicorn mantra, because you don't just like know one little thing, like all the world comes together and it's all related, and analytics is just not something you can ignore.
Right.
Say there's a ton of business owners who want to ignore it and just want you to handle it and give them a quick rundown. So this is where you make yourself the total package with your services and self completely valuable and different, especially than the overseas people who are doing some of this work.
Yes, and by saying you're data driven and you use numbers, major selling point, like major selling point.
I like that. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your business. And by the way, those 2 trainings are in. I updated it in the comment. You can find that there. And Anne-Marie has a ton of little $7 flash sales where you can jump in, get some trainings to back it up, and get you smart. I mean, this is the fast track, and it's only $7. I'm totally encouraging you to do this. I know how important analytics are, and definitely no matter what like realm you're in, there's probably something in there you want to learn. So with that said, I really want to peel back the curtain a little bit on your business and what that looks like. So you were telling us how you went from social media to this, and you were at an agency. Did you quit your agency when you had your daughter?
No. So I've been at a couple different agencies.
Okay.
The last one I was at when I was pregnant dropped me.
Oh no.
So it wasn't great. But so as I'm sure many of us have been, I was a full-time contractor. So I was not an employee,
Okay.
but all of my hours were there. I didn't work with any other clients. And after that happened, I was like, okay, never again. I'm never again going to only work with one client so that I can always have this backup if something happens.
Oh
Now,
my
I wasn't expecting a pandemic to happen, but that's fine. Everybody had that happen.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I took a couple of months off for my daughter because thankfully I had money in savings that I had been putting aside. Going into it, I had planned to take like 2 weeks because I was like, well, I can't afford to take more.
Yeah.
And then like when it came down to it, I had enough money to saved up that I could actually take more time.
Good.
But which is good because I was not ready to come back after 2 weeks.
Kind of nuts actually looking back on it. You're like brand new mom.
Yeah.
Crap you just went through, like mentally, physically, and then you're not sleeping, but it's so funny. You're so
I know. And then I had postpartum depression, and it like really threw me for a loop. I didn't even realize it at the time. I didn't realize it until after, basically, until I was like starting to come out of it. My doctor had kept telling me, like, go see somebody for this, like go, because my daughter's pediatrician was also my OB. And so she was like, you need to go see somebody. You need to go see somebody. And I was like, I don't have time. I don't have time to do it. I'm running my business. I have this tiny human depending on me. I can't do that. And then afterwards I was like, that was so ridiculous. Why did I do that? And so now whenever like somebody has a new baby, I'm like, listen, if you're noticing these things, just go. And now there's like virtual stuff. Like
oh my God.
it's so much easier. And so yeah, that took me a while to kind of like get back in the swing of things. But that was really when I started back completely with paid. Because I was like, I can have a whole bunch of different clients. I know this is a quick, not a quick way to make a lot of money, but I know that I can have fewer clients doing this and reach my income goals.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, well, I want to shift things. We're entrepreneurs. Sometimes we don't stick with everything. And it's funny because, it was funny because going into it on my own, even then I was like, I want to do something for moms. Like there's nothing like I saw one person out there doing something. I was like, oh, this is like, and it wasn't what I wanted. It was a very specific training program for moms. And I was like, that's not the career I want. And I talked to my mom about it, and because she raised us while running her own business. And I was like, what did you do? She was like, I had to figure it out. There was nothing like this 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, I want to do something for moms. And then at the time, it was just too overwhelming to take on this whole new project. So now 3 years later, here I am. And I'm like, yes, I'm finally doing it. I've shifted all of my branding to like all my messaging is all moms. Here is what you can do. And I'm going into 2021. I still have all of my data and analytics stuff because I love it. And that's the focus of like my marketing courses and my marketing teaching. And then in 2021, my focus is going to be on my masterminds for moms with toddlers at home.
Oh my gosh, this is so cool. And what's cool is they are married. Like that data can help the moms prioritize their time.
Exactly.
On the revenue producing activities, because we don't have time to waste. Add in COVID.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I have to be so careful about what I work on and what rabbit holes I go down, and be super conscientious of that.
Yeah, like we're 3 weeks into the current round of Mastermind. We're still on planning. We're on planning and scheduling because yes, as moms, it's so important because like you said, we have no time to waste. And I only have one. Like I know you have more and you have four. And I don't know how you do it. Like you are a superwoman. But like exactly, we have to figure out definitive ways to know what we need to work on. And I also find, I'm sure you can understand this, we question ourselves and our decisions a lot. So when you can look at the numbers, it's just like it's basically another, like, it's not a decision you have to make. Like, you know how they always talk about like mental load?
Yeah.
And like just constantly having to make choices is exhausting. And this is just one decision you don't have to make because you can literally just look at the numbers and say like, okay, this is what I'm going to do because this is going to make me money.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. And it's all about simplifying too. And I'll see that too. Like, for instance, I know, and I've known this for years working for clients, but like my audiograms for a podcast, for my clients' podcast, those never, what am I trying to say? Like anything, like they even do worse on reach. Like nobody listens to them, but yet like everyone's like, oh, do your audiogram, gotta look legit. I'm like, no, you can look at the data and say, nope, cut that out. I will say what I do is put them in stories and reels because that's just the better place for them right now. But yeah, I love that. So what kind of moms are in your mastermind? Do they all have businesses? Are they just starting out? Like, tell me where they are in their journey.
So the group that I have now is really mixed. We have 2 that are just starting or that have gone dormant since having kids. And so they're basically like getting back into it. And then I have a couple who have been working maybe for like a year, like in that early stage. And then a couple who have been working for longer. And they have specific goals of, okay, like I want to streamline this. I want to get like things really working efficiently because now they're like everybody's at home. So there's less time than usual. So even like with a little bit older, like everybody's kids are under 10.
Okay.
So they're all on the younger side, but there are a couple that are in school. And so that's more of the adjusting the business as opposed to growing the business. But I think that in my next round, I'm going to break it out so that we have the just starting your business versus people who are more established. Although this group is doing really well together. So I don't know, maybe I should look at the data.
Yeah, well, no, you will.
Right.
Talk to your people and find out. But I think that's so cool because you have the experience and you didn't, you've taken a couple years to do your freelance thing. You've worked with the agencies. Like, I love that you have like done the work. But I cannot stand when there's these like high level like coaches or whatever and they're not doing it, they're just kind of addressing like mindset. And I'm like, no, we need to learn from people who do the work, who read the data, know what it's really like to do it, to learn.
I want, like, when I have a coach, I want examples of not like, oh, well, I've heard people do this. I did this and this is what happened.
Yeah, that's a shortcut. Learn all of that.
Yeah.
So when does your mastermind open up again?
It's going to open up again in January. So there's a wait list now just to like get information. But anybody who gets a freebie or anything like that or signs up, you're going to get an email about it. So
cool. Yeah, and I'm not sure when we'll make this a podcast, so we'll make sure that's relevant and in any associated links for anybody who's interested. I know that masterminds like fast track you. They put you around people who are excelling. Sometimes it's hard as a mom because people are like, oh, look at her. She's trying to do this business thing. Like, who does she think she is? Or who knows what kind of judgy things
that's one happening. That's one of the things we talk about. Like one of the goals of one of the women is, how do I get over putting myself out there and not being embarrassed that other people like who don't get it are going to make fun of me?
Yeah, it's hard.
It is. And that was one of those things I said. I was like, I only just started doing videos on my personal profile. So I'm like, it's a thing. Like, we all have to work through it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I know one thing that holds me back is my family always around and makes it hard to show up a lot of times. But batching and prioritizing and planning is the key to that, as I know, which I'm not always the best at, to be honest.
I hired somebody to help me with it because I was like, you know what, this is super important and I am not doing a good job myself.
Oh my gosh. What do you call this person on your team? What's their title?
She's my online business manager, but every quarter she sits me down. we go through all of the projects I want to do for the next 90 days. And it's awesome because she also is helping with the mastermind. So she's doing this for all of them too.
Okay.
And working out all of the projects. And then she goes through and she literally creates every single task that has to get done. And then twice a week, she emails me to say, hey, this is what we're working on this week. This is what you have to do tomorrow.
That's awesome. Like keeps you like on track.
Exactly. And then it's more of that. I don't have to make any decisions because they're already made.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. And I wanted you to bring this up too, because I do have people in this group who are on the OBM track already.
Oh, nice.
Owners do this. So it's kind of cool to know because you are super useful when you can do that. Sometimes people are like, who would want that? Like so many of us need that.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody to get us in gear and keep us on task and keep us in the channel.
Exactly. And that person to be like, when you come up with this fancy new idea, have them be like, okay, because she'll say it. She'll say, okay, do you want to put this in for January? Because that's the next time we have an open project spot. And then it'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I guess we don't have to do that. That's true. But she kind of like pulls me back to say like, but then like, if it's something I really want to do, she's not like mean about it. She's like, okay, cool. We just have to rearrange this other stuff.
Yeah.
Because something will have to move if you do this.
The reality, you have to prioritize all of the time in your business. And I'm so glad you have like a business buddy to talk to about that.
And she's a mom. So that always helps too.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, I can't thank you enough for being on the show today, sharing your insight. Will you tell everybody about your 15-minute marketing map that you have and how that can help, especially freelancers and virtual assistants?
Yes. So the 15-minute marketing map, it's a video training that I have, but it's just a system that I put in place. You look at 5 metrics each week. And then between finding the metrics and then making decisions about what to do with them, it takes less than 15 minutes. So the training itself tells you about the metrics, tells you where to find them, and then gives examples of like, okay, if you see this number going up, this is what you should do. If you see this number going down, this is what you should do. So it makes it really simple. And it just kind of gets you in that pattern because once you start doing it once a week or even once a month, like, it gets to be secondhand. Secondhand? I don't know if that's the right phrase.
First nature?
Second nature. Second nature. There we go.
That's my mom brain. Like like I just don't connect the dots. Like I can't.
I'm like, I don't know, something about hands and numbers. So that's what it does. It just makes it really, really simple, really easy to do. And then there's a template in there too. So you just plug it in and it does the math for you. So
it sounds like this would be really good for the freelancer who's taking their business seriously. And it sounds like something you could apply for your clients too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do talk about also, there's an automated tool that I use that we didn't talk about, but it's Reporting Ninja. And it just makes it super simple. Hi, honey. Yeah. It just makes it really easy. You can get it done and like even faster. I have it automatically email me the report once a week, and then I don't even have to look it up.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Now you did mention Reporting Ninja for some of your end of the month reports. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah. And it's like $20 a month, but it saves so much time.
Okay, I love it. Well, thank you so much. If anyone has any questions for Anne Marie checking the replay, just leave them here. She's a member of the group and she can respond. You check out her flash sale and you can get ahead on some of the analytics and data. And then she'll tell you when her mastermind's opening again too.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
I love hearing your story. I'm so grateful that you opened up about the perils of working, being pregnant, and postpartum, and all of that. And I just love you to death. So thank you so much.
Bye. Love you too.